So today's training is on our next rotation, which starts hopefully June 1st, is Bibimbox, which is our Korean rice dish. This is going to be a super simple rotation to not only prep, but to serve. I think this is going to be extremely busy for when we actually get going. The real date will be based on when we decide to reopen, okay? So as you notice, we have 5 dishes here. The main component is going to be white rice. We're using jasmine rice, which is a little bit different than sticky rice that you'd find in sushi. It is sticky, but not as sticky as glutinous rice. So we're going to have basically the main items throughout both week 1 and week 2. 2 of the proteins will change. So week 1 we'll have the rice. We'll also have tofu. We'll have chicken, and we'll have pork. We're using pork loin. Okay, so these are cut into strips about 2 inch by 1 inch by about 1/4 of a half. So all these items are cooked really quick. So what that means is we can really progressively cook. So instead of when we've done certain other rotations like Barbecue District or Tavolino that have had long cook times that we had to put in enough to make it through the day, a lot of times we might have to waste it. With this rotation, there should be really no waste at the end of the day because we can cook any of these items in about 8 to 10 minutes. So as long as we have everything prepped up, we just ask someone in the back to fire more chicken, more pork, more shrimp, whatever it might be, okay? So each week we'll have those, for week 1 we'll have those items. Week 2, we're gonna swap out the chicken and the pork for beef, which we use the eye round, which comes from the back of the cow. It's a lean cut. It's a little bit tougher than tenderloin, but when we cut it into thin strips, it'll cook really fast. And then we're gonna have the tofu both weeks. We will also add for the shrimp roasted shiitake mushrooms. So this diagram here, which I have in your books, this will change a little bit. So when you're new to this station, you go by the planogram, which will show you what week 1 should look like. It'll also show you what week 2 should look like. And really the only thing that changes is instead of a full pan of rice, we'll go to a half pan of rice to accommodate the roasted mushrooms, okay? But everything else will stay. We have the pork pot stickers or dumplings. These are fried. There's a number of different ways that we can cook these. Some of our recipes call for it to just be steamed. Some are just fried. Some are steamed and fried, where we would use the saute pan, a little bit of oil, a little bit of water, turn it up, cover it, let the steam from the water cook it. Once that water evaporates, the oil still remains, it'll fry the bottom of the pot sticker, okay? And then we're gonna have our vegetable egg roll. What I have here are spring rolls. What they sent us was not the correct product, but we will be using egg rolls. The main difference is the wrapper. An egg roll is a little bit thicker, a little bit more chewy, it has egg in it. This is more of a pastry. It's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit crispy and crunchy and falls apart when you eat it. The fillings can be the same. For our cold items, we're gonna have pickled cucumbers. So almost everything that we're doing here today has a vinegar, salt, and sugar component, okay? So we have our pickled cucumber, we have our kimchi, which has cabbage. We're using green cabbage, you can use any kind of cabbage. We're also using daikon radish and carrot. It calls for a julienne on these, which is 2 inches by 1/8 by 1/8. I have a mandolin that'll help you slice it a lot thinner. Although you should be working on your knife skills, this makes the job a little more efficient. We have some water chestnuts that have been also pickled. We have a gochujang sauce, which is the Korean chili paste. That's also been added with some vinegar and some water and some other things, okay? Very great sauce, a little bit sweet, a little bit savory. Scallions, we have our raw shell eggs, and then we have dipping sauces for both of these. So if you look over here, you'll see pork, chicken, tofu, shrimp, and beef bibimbap. The main component is, again, the rice, 6 ounces of rice. Each dish will have 3 ounces of protein, okay? Every dish will get kimchi, 2 ounces of kimchi. Most of these dishes will have the pickled cucumber, 2 ounces of the pickled cucumber. You'll also see in there the water chestnuts and the roasted mushrooms here. I'm sorry, right here. And then every dish gets topped with 2 tablespoons of the gochujang sauce, which we can also put into a squeeze bottle, and then 1 tablespoon of scallions. We also, when we get into the back, I'm going to have him dish one of these up, and we'll show you the proper way to cook an egg. We're used to cooking on a griddle, on a flat top griddle. That's great. For convenience, we're going to use a saute pan, so that involves learning how to flip an egg correctly. You can take orders for that. You can take over easy, you can take over medium, over hard. So the main thing is that we want to cook those egg whites first. The egg whites cook at a lower temperature than the yolks. Once we flip it over easy is about 10 more seconds, over medium is about 20 more seconds, and then over hard is about 30 seconds. And then we'll slide that right on top of that rice, top it with the sauce, some scallions, and serve it, okay? I also have the to-go boxes that I'll show you that we're going to be using for this. We'll probably be using it throughout the duration of this rotation, okay? So you will all get, for this station, you'll have your binder. There'll be one in the back. So let's leave that one in the back. We'll also keep one out here in front. I also have another copy in my office. So each one will have your production logs for week 1 and week 2. This is an implementation guide that will show you some build diagrams if you're unsure. It will give you recipe numbers, and then every recipe and sub-recipe that we need is in here. If you go to the very back of this, I've also included a requisition sheet. So if you find yourself doing this, this tells you every ingredient for every recipe in here. So you're not guessing at what you need. You'll just go through and say, hey, I need this, bring it to the store, and they'll fill a requisition. There's also a production sheet for you guys to work off of. So you'll take an inventory of your product before you start and say, I need 5 pounds of beef for today. Well, you go into the walk and there's 5 pounds already there. Let's cross that off our list. This will tell you what you need to make for the day, as our production logs just forecast the main ingredient, okay? So each one of these will be located, one out here and then one in the back, as well as your planograms, okay? So let's go in the other side. Built on this is we use the to-go containers. They look like a Chinese box. They're a little bit wider. They'll fit more on here. So we're going to do 6 ounces of the rice. Now you'll also notice that it's pretty sticky. What I will sometimes do is wrap that spoodle in plastic wrap, so it basically falls off of that much more easy. We'll put that right in the center as you're going. Okay. And then the next item will be whatever protein that they're wanting. So we will do chicken, which is 3 ounces of the chicken thigh. What's good about this rotation also is some of these items, like the marinades and things, we can make in bulk. So you're doing it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This will get, and we're going to place these in the 4 corners. So we have 3 ounces of the chicken. We'll also get 3 ounces of the spinach. And let's try to find a slotted spoon for this. There's a lot of water, and it still comes out of this. And then as we move down, we're going to go to the cold. We'll get a 2-ounce spoonful of the kimchi. And as he's doing that, I will get this ready. I'll turn this on about medium-high. I have a non-stick pan, spray fat, and you'll also get 2 ounces of the water chestnuts. Okay. So again, when you're doing anything sauteed, it's just a nice fluid motion. We want to make sure that egg is fully released before we start to flip it. So I'm gonna crack my egg. Looks like a good egg. Let's have a container to crack and also one for our shells. Okay, so we'll turn this up. Could run and grab me a rubber spatula from the back. So if you can see these eggs, which we'll talk about it in another in another training, the whites will cook first. They cook at about 142 to 148 degrees. The yolks start cooking at about 148-ish to 152 degrees. That's why we can have fully cooked whites and runny yolks. Okay, this looks like it's a fairly fresh egg. You can tell by the yolk that sits high up, and the whites that are fairly nice and tight. If you crack an egg and it fully falls apart, it's a pretty old egg. Okay. So as you can see, all I want to do is get the base of this cooked so it's firm enough that I can flip. And all I'm going to try to do is, as you can see, it's moving around pretty good. So this is really just about a nice, easy motion. As I'm doing this, I'm getting some movement because I want to flip this. I don't want to flip it real high. I just want to flip it enough so this piece is right about here as it falls over. And you're just doing this nice and gently. You just know when it's time and it's done. Give it 10 seconds for over medium, about 20, I'm sorry, for over easy, about 20 for over medium, and about 30 for over hard. So as that's nice and cooked, it's done. I'll bring this right here. And then we'll just simply top this with, again, squeeze bottle would be good. Okay. And that's your chicken bibimbap. Okay. So, and that's it for today's training. We'll take some questions in a few minutes. Okay. That's literally